I was 81 when Thomas died, and I remember standing in that hospital corridor, holding a cup of coffee that had gone cold an hour ago, thinking about how I hadn't called him back 3 weeks earlier. 3 weeks. He'd left a message, said he wanted to talk, said it wasn't urgent, just wanted to hear my voice. I listened to it while making dinner, told myself I'd call him tomorrow. Tomorrow came and went. Now I'm 83, and I still have that voicemail saved on my phone. I've listened to it 42 times. His voice sounds so normal, so alive. Hey, it's me. Nothing important, just thinking about you. Call when you can. I never called, and now I talk to his grave instead. Thomas and I met in 1962. We were 22 years old, both working at the same factory outside of Cleveland. He ran the line next to mine. Loud machines, 12-hour shifts, hands that smelled like grease for years. I didn't like him at first. He talked too much, laughed too loud, made jokes I didn't understand. But one day my car wouldn't start after a double shift, freezing January night. I was standing there in the parking lot, cursing at the engine, and Thomas walked over with a toolbox like he'd been waiting for this moment his whole life. Fixed it in 20 minutes, didn't ask for anything, just said, "See you tomorrow," and walked to his own car. That was the beginning. By the time we were 25, we were inseparable. We got married the same summer. His wife was Ellen. Mine was Dorothy. We bought houses 3 streets apart, raised our kids together, barbecues every Sunday, fishing trips every spring. Thomas was the kind of friend who showed up. When my father died, he sat with me on my porch for 4 hours, didn't say a word, just sat there. When Dorothy had her miscarriage, Ellen brought food every day for 2 weeks. Thomas mowed our lawn so I didn't have to think about it. That's who he was. That's who they both were. I always thought friendship was something that just existed, like gravity. You don't maintain gravity. You don't schedule it. It's just there. I believed that for 60 years. I was wrong. The drift started so slowly, I didn't notice it. In our 40s, we were still close. Dinners, birthdays, holidays. In our 50s, the dinners became monthly instead of weekly. In our 60s, monthly became every few months. By our 70s, we talked on the phone maybe 4 times a year. Christmas, birthdays, sometimes Easter if we remembered. I told myself it was normal. People get busy, kids grow up, grandkids arrive, health problems start. Life fills up with things that feel urgent. Thomas and I had 61 years of friendship. I thought that meant something permanent. I thought the years themselves were enough. We stopped fishing when we were 68. His knees were bad. My back was worse. We said we'd find something else to do together. We never did. We stopped the Sunday barbecues when Ellen got sick the first time. She recovered, but the tradition didn't. We stopped driving to see each other when gas prices went up and our eyes got worse at night. We said we'd figure something out. We didn't. Every year, another small thing disappeared, and every year I told myself it was fine. We had history. We had memories. We had 6 decades of friendship banked up like money in a savings account. I thought I could withdraw from that account forever. I didn't realize the account was emptying. The strange thing about distance is how comfortable it becomes. You stop noticing the silence because the silence becomes normal. Thomas and I still cared about each other. I know we did. But caring and showing up are different things. Caring is a feeling. Showing up is a choice. I made the feeling. I stopped making the choice. There were moments when I almost reached out. I'd see something that reminded me of him. An old fishing lure at a garage sale. A rerun of a show we used to watch. A song from 1965. I'd think, I should call Thomas. Then I'd think, I'll do it later. Later is a thief. Later stole years from me. Later stole my last chance to tell him what he meant to me. Dorothy passed in 2019. 53 years of marriage gone in a Tuesday afternoon. The funeral was small, just family and a few neighbors. Thomas came. I hadn't seen him in person for almost 2 years. He looked older, thinner. His hair was completely white, and he walked with a cane I'd never seen before. But he came. He drove 3 hours with his bad knees and his bad eyes, and he sat in the front row of that church, and he cried for my wife like she was his own family, because she was. After the service, he hugged me, didn't say anything, just held on. I remember thinking, I need to see him more. I need to make time. I didn't. After Dorothy died, I got lost in my own grief. Months passed, then a year. Thomas called a few times. I answered some of those calls. Others I let go to voicemail. I was tired. I was sad. I was adjusting to a house that felt too big and too quiet. I told myself Thomas understood. He probably did. But understanding isn't the same as feeling wanted. Understanding isn't the same as being chosen. I was so consumed by what I had lost that I forgot to protect what I still had. Ellen died in early 2022. I found out from his daughter. She called to let me know the funeral details. I went. Of course I went. Thomas looked like a man whose shadow had been cut away. He sat in the front pew, staring at the casket, and I recognized that stare. It was the same one I'd worn 3 years earlier. After the service, I sat with him. I know, I said. He nodded. I know you do. We didn't say much else, but I held his hand for a while. His fingers were cold. I told myself I'd check on him every week. I managed it for about a month. Then life got in the way again. The life that was just me, alone in my house, watching television, and waiting for nothing in particular. I let that life become more important than my oldest friend. The voicemail came on a Thursday in September. I was watching a baseball game. The phone buzzed. I saw his name. I let it ring. I told myself I'd call him back during the 7th inning stretch. Then I forgot. The next day I remembered, but I was tired. The day after that, I had a doctor's appointment. The day after that, I just didn't feel like talking. 3 weeks passed. His daughter called on a Sunday morning. He had a stroke, she said. He's in the hospital. It's not good. I drove there as fast as I could, but fast at 81 isn't fast at all. He was unconscious when I arrived, machines everywhere, tubes beeping. I sat in the chair next to his bed and I held his hand again. His fingers were even colder than they'd been at Ellen's funeral. I'm here, I said. I'm sorry I didn't call back. I'm sorry I let so much time go. I'm sorry I thought we had more of it. I talked to him for 3 hours. Told him about the fishing trip in '74 when he fell in the lake. Told him about the night his first son was born and he was so nervous he put his shoes on the wrong feet. Told him about all the Sunday barbecues and all the beers and all the bad jokes. Told him he was the best friend I ever had. Told him I loved him. I don't know if he heard any of it. He died the next morning. I wasn't there. I'd gone home to sleep for a few hours. They said he went peacefully, just slipped away around 4 a.m. I like to think he heard me. I like to think he knew. But I'll never be sure. And that uncertainty is something I carry every single day. The funeral was bigger than I expected. Thomas had touched a lot of lives. People I'd never met stood up and told stories about him, his kindness, his humor, his loyalty. I was supposed to speak, but I couldn't. I wrote something, had it in my pocket. But when I stood up and looked at the casket, the words wouldn't come. I just stood there for a moment. Then I said, he was my best friend for 61 years. I should have told him that more often. And I sat back down. It's been 2 years now. I think about him every day, not in a dramatic way, just small moments. I'll see a fishing show on television and wonder what he would have said about it. I'll hear an old song and remember a road trip we took in 1971. I'll look at my phone and think about calling him. Then I remember. People say grief gets easier. I don't think that's true. I think it just becomes familiar. The weight doesn't get lighter. You just get used to carrying it. I have his last voicemail saved on 3 different devices now. My phone, an old tablet, a USB drive my grandson helped me set up. I'm terrified of losing it. That voicemail is the last new thing I'll ever have from him. 19 seconds of his voice. Hey, it's me. Nothing important. Just thinking about you. Call when you can. I understand now what I didn't understand before. Friendship isn't a savings account. You can't deposit years of closeness and expect to withdraw from it forever. Friendship is more like a garden. If you stop watering it, it dies. Slowly, quietly, in ways you don't notice until the flowers are gone. Thomas and I had the most beautiful garden, and I let it dry up because I was too busy, too tired, too distracted by things that didn't matter. I don't blame myself for everything. Life is complicated. Time is limited. People drift. But I do blame myself for the voicemail. I blame myself for 3 weeks. I blame myself for thinking later was a safe place to store the people I loved. I'm 83 now. Most of my friends are gone. My brothers are gone. Dorothy is gone. Thomas is gone. I have my children and my grandchildren, and I'm grateful for them. But there's a particular kind of loneliness that comes from outliving everyone who knew you when you were young. No one else remembers the factory, the fishing trips, the barbecues. No one else remembers the person I was at 22. Thomas remembered, and now he's gone. I visit his grave twice a month. It's next to Ellen's in a cemetery about an hour from my house. I bring 2 cups of coffee, drink one myself, pour the other on the grass beside his headstone. He would have laughed at that, called it a waste of good coffee. But I do it anyway. Sometimes I just sit there and talk to him, tell him about my week, complain about my knees, update him on his grandkids, the ones I keep in touch with. It's not the same as talking to him when he was alive, but it's something. It's the only something I have left. If you're watching this and you have an old friend you haven't called in a while, I'm not going to tell you what to do. You're an adult. You know your life. But I'll tell you this. I have a voicemail on my phone from a man who loved me, and I didn't call him back, and now I sit at his grave and drink coffee alone. That's the truth I live with. That's the price of later. I think about that Thursday in September a lot, the baseball game I was watching. I don't remember who won. The 7th inning stretch I was going to call him during. It passed, and I forgot. The 3 weeks that followed, just ordinary days, nothing special about them, nothing except they were the last 3 weeks Thomas was conscious, and I spent them doing nothing important. He wasn't asking for much, that's what haunts me. He just wanted to hear my voice. 19 seconds to ask, 0 seconds to answer. I'm tired now. Not sleepy tired, life tired. I've had a good run, 83 years, a loving wife, good kids, a best friend who stuck by me for 6 decades. I don't have many regrets about the big things. It's the small things that keep me up at night. The calls I didn't return, the visits I didn't make, the words I didn't say because I thought I had time. Thomas knew I loved him. I'm almost certain of that, but almost isn't enough. Not when you're sitting at a grave with 2 cups of coffee, not when you're listening to a 19-second voicemail for the 43rd time, not when the silence in your house is filled with all the conversations you didn't have. He was my best friend for 61 years, and in the end, I couldn't give him a phone call. That's what I live with now. That's what I'll carry until I see him again. If I see him again. I hope I do. I have a lot to say. And this time, I won't wait.